Ripley, Ohio, down on the Ohio River in Brown County. Lived out in the country about 7 miles from Ripley, so I was really a country boy. I was born on September 30th, 1923. I went to school in Ripley. I started the school at a one-room schoolhouse. My first 3 years of school were spent at a one-room schoolhouse out in the country. And maybe you've heard a lot about one-room schoolhouses, a lot of things about them. And they're probably all true. And I graduated from Ripley High School in 1941. I was an only child, and my father worked in a bank there in Ripley. And I thought I wanted to go into business, some form of business work. My father died of cancer when I was a junior in high school. So that left just my mother and myself. 1941, does that mean anything to you girls or not? I think it does. Some pretty important things happened in 1941. Probably the biggest one we remember is a little event called Pearl Harbor. And of course it was eminent with what was going on in Europe and what was going on after Pearl Harbor that the United States was going to be in war for a period of time. Being a small town, Ripley was full of businesses. It was hard to imagine a small town, as small as it was, not as big as Bethel, having the number of businesses it had. Like it had 4 barber shops, 2 or 3 clothing stores, 3 butcher shops, 4 grocery stores, 2 banks. Because people didn't have shopping centers and places to go to do business, they had to come into the little town and get everything taken care of there. But it amazed me how much interest the businessmen in that town showed in me, and how important it was for me to keep in mind, you need more education, you need to go to school, you need to go to college. Don't let that get away from you. So I worked in a shoe factory for a year after I graduated, and they were drafting you into the military service that time. In September of 1942, I did start to Ohio State, went there 1 quarter, came home at Christmas, the end of the first quarter, because I knew I was going to be drafted into the service. So I didn't go back after Christmas, and in March I was drafted into the military, into the service. I ended up in the Air Force. I was in the service for 31 months, 2.5 years. I was overseas for 9 months in the Pacific. I was a member of a crew of a heavy bomber in the 13th Air Force, and I flew on 43 missions. We were stationed about halfway between New Guinea and the Philippines, and most of our missions were for the purpose of getting the Philippines ready for the retaking after they had been taken over by the Japanese. So I was on my way back to the United States to retrain for the new Super Fortresses, the B-29s, which were going to be very much needed for the invasion of Japan. And while I was on my way back by boat, the atomic bomb was dropped and World War II ended. So I was discharged from the Army soon after that, or from the Air Force. Thanks to a plan that the government had set up at that time called the GI Bill of Rights, they gave you money for your college education. And I was able to go to college on that money. My mother was working. We would never have had enough money for me to have attended college had it not been for the GI Bill of Rights. And I graduated from Wilmington College with a degree in education in 1950. During my 4 years at Wilmington, I had met a young lady that I liked very much, and I planned things well. I graduated from college on Sunday and was married on Thursday. So that's pretty well my background up to that point. I taught for, I went into education. My wife was a teacher. This lady knows my wife she taught language arts, taught here in Bethel all of her life. And I taught here for 26 years, or worked here for 26 years, and worked in other districts for 11 years. But Bethel has been our home since 1954. We lived up in Brown County, and I changed jobs. Came here to Bethel as a teacher and as a basketball coach and a bus driver. I even drove a school bus for 7 years. You did anything you could do. Worked during the summer. Anything you could do to get a little money, because we were trying to pay for a house. We had a terrible house payment, $105 a month. We didn't know whether we could make it or not, paying $105 a month. But Bethel's been our home, and we had 2 children, a boy and a girl. They both graduated from Bethel, and we love this place.